the icing on the cake from a great year for the Hustle, and it worked out perfectly. We'd won our first playoff game over in Stockton, and our staff got rewarded by having to take a red-eye flight right after the game, as Kelsey can attest to. And then the players didn't get in until about 5 o'clock the next day. So we had a 5:30 meeting with our players to start the process of getting ready for RGV. Well, 5:25, Dusty comes in. He's always early and professional. And then at 5:27, I look down and it's Chris Wallace calling me on my phone. I'm like, oh, I better take this call. And so he tells me about the injury exception thing, and he goes, hey, we're not going to be able to make this official for a day, so you got to keep it quiet. But I just called the agent, so Dusty's he's probably going to find out here either before or after your meeting. Well, before I can hang up with Chris Wallace, Dusty comes running out of the room, like just so excited, almost in tears and emotional. And obviously Kelsey and Jeff were there, and we got to kind of experience it with him. And after he kind of had the first minute or two of it, he looked and goes, Coach, I got to go call my parents. And I said, well, me being a little bit of a smart aleck, said, well, go ahead. Now you're in the NBA. It'll be a bigger fine for being late to our meeting. But it's just it never gets old as a coach, especially on the first time when guys get called up, and especially for somebody like Dusty, who's been with the Hustle since they came here for the last 2 years, and how hard he's worked and what a great year he's had. And I get chills talking about it right now. So a very special moment that kind of capped off a really good year for our Hustle team.
Brad, how are you going to reflect on the season going forward, looking back now, what you accomplished this year?
Well, like I said, it's been a great year. When we first had our meeting with our players, our first player meeting, one of the goals we talked about was, the G League means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, whether it's the Javon Carters, the Ivan Rabs coming to play with us, or the guys like Dusty, or even the Nino Johnsons and the Markel Crawfords. So we promised to them that our staff would work hard to make this year a positive year for every player, no matter what level we're trying to get them to. And as we just finished up our exit interviews upstairs, I feel like the guys, in the staff really feels like we helped everybody's career this year, and that's the goal of what we do. There's different levels of it, but we really feel like we did that, and that's the main goal. So we're very pleased at that point, and there's always things you can improve on. Like I said earlier, next year we'd like to have a playoff game at home instead of having to face 3 straight playoff games to get to the championship. But overall, very good year.
When you look at it, a lot of teams and organizations on the developmental level, they're there to basically service the big club. And if you win, it's a sidelight. But you were able to not only service the big club, but you also won, and that's something that you got to feel pretty good about yourself for that, but also about the job it took to make that happen.
Well, when I took the job and met with Chris Wallace and these guys, they kind of laid out a vision for what they had for the Hustle, and obviously it is to support the Grizzlies in any way we can, and that means a lot of different things. But they had a great vision, and they put great people together around us, and we got lucky to get a good staff. One of the things we just wrapped up our exit interviews, and to a man, each player talked about how good the assistant coaches were here. So that's a credit to our guys. And so yes, we do feel good about it. And it just, like I said, it's hard to totally evaluate at this point because we're still kind of fresh off of the season being over. But I think as we get out of this and put a little distance between now and then, we're going to feel even better about some of the things that we probably don't even realize what we've done so far this year.
Brad, how did you see Yuta grow this year?
That's a great question. I'm glad you brought up Yuta. This is the first time I've had a press conference where there's not any Japanese media here. I am more popular in Japan than I am in Memphis because Yuta being the second ever Asian or Japanese player to play in the NBA. There's obviously a big following for him, but. I think the one thing Yuta has learned is going through his rookie year is the level that he has to play at every night. And he'll even admit this. I don't think he realized how hard and how physical the game is at this level, especially the way he has to play. He has a lot of unique skill set that makes him very diverse. And he can be a playmaker off the dribble. He can shoot the ball. He can defend. So in being 6'9", that's a great asset for any player. But I think he learned at the work level and the work rate he has to have in order to sustain that. He had some ups and downs, obviously, like every rookie does. But he I think at the end of the year, he really had raised that and really had a good last, stretch with us down the stretch. And, even the point that, when we lost Tariq Phillip in our first round playoff game, we played him at point guard the whole game. So he was very excited about that and actually did a fabulous job. And, I think it gave us a sample size of something maybe we can do with him going forward to help him continue to grow.
Speaking of learning how to deal with players, younger players, and all that, about Markel Crawford, who is not a guy that was drafted or anything like that, but he's a local guy that is trying to do the best he can to try to make it to the show. And about his progress this year.
I think he improved as much as anybody on our team. Like I said, we just had our exit interviews and we had a great session with him. And we also had player interviews at game 25 this year with our staff. And I think he had during that time, we had a very realistic conversation with him. And I just told him upstairs that from that point on, so the second half of the season, he's improved as much or more as anybody on our team. And he took to heart some of the things that we said to him as far as cleaning his game up, as far as being a little bit more professional. And I think if you look at his second half of the year, he was very, very successful at, he improved his shot selection. He improved his understanding of the offensive game, and he became more consistent defensively. He's always been a good defensive player for us, but he was a little bit erratic at the first part of the year, and he took a big step defensively as being able to play with the appropriate energy and the appropriate thought process because he's a unique defensive player. He can do a bunch of different things. Some defensive players can only play like on ball. Some defensive players are only good team defenders. Some defensive players are good at studying the other team, but maybe can't do those the physical things. Well, he can do all three of those, and this is what we just talked about. Is he can become a really unique defensive player.
Brad, you mentioned the ever presence of the Japanese media, but what was it like to coach a international cultural icon in this league?
It was very exciting for me. To understand what he means to Japanese basketball. I didn't know Yuta obviously before he came to us, and then we quickly got to know him when the first time we had like a little team event, we had like 15 Japanese media following us around on a hayride, chasing us. Kelsey will remember that. I think at that point really kind of illustrated to me the magnitude of what he means to Japan and the Japanese basketball world. And it also kind of gave, not that we don't feel responsibility to all our players, but it was just a little bit of a different level of responsibility because he has the weight of all of Japan basketball which is getting ready to host the Olympics in 2020 on him. So going through the year, he and I actually had a lot of conversations about it because Yuta is somewhat of a shy person in general. And to our PR's credit, they did a good job helping him with that and protecting him. And then as the year went on, he became more and more comfortable with it. And I think a lot of it is like, going through the process, our PR people, but also helping us to understand that, hey, we're here to help you, not to put you in a bad situation. And it would be funny on the road, especially when we went out on the West Coast. There's a big following out there. We'd look at each other and go, okay, who's going first, you or me? And he'd say, Coach, you please go first. Yeah, it's a really cool thing, and I appreciated it, and I learned from him on it, and hopefully, we were part of helping him get through his rookie year.
So I'm envisioning a late October hayride somewhere in DeSoto County. Is that accurate?
Well, that's what it was, yes. And we missed you on that one, David. But next year, when we look forward to having you there. But,
Jeff text me.
Yeah. No, that showed the magnitude of what like these people were literally following us around, and they were not. I don't say they're not allowed. There wasn't room for them on the hayride, so they're on their cameras, like running behind the hayride, following them. So it was amazing. So.
Final thing for me, Coach. Let's see. I think the Grizzlies went through 28 players this year, which ties the NBA record. Some of that was the trade, but a lot of it was injuries, which means they're looking at your club to pull guys up. The synergy between you and Chris Wallace, how did you guys work that out? How many guys did you go through this year, and how difficult was it to pull that off and still make the playoff?
Well, first of all, the synergy between Chris Wallace and JB Bickerstaff and myself and our staff is terrific. I can't tell you the amount of times that Chris has called after a game or texts after a game, and JB has done the same thing. And having been around the NBA a little bit and the G League a little bit, that's a bit of a unique situation. So I think we're very blessed to have our our general manager and our head coach as involved in what we have going on here. And to be quite honest, is one of the reasons why I was excited to come. So we're very fortunate. I think it's one of the more unique situations in the G League. We did go through quite the year, and Jeff maybe can validate this, but I think we had 26 different starting lineups, in 52 games. So I'd be lying if I didn't say that was a challenge, but it's also part of the beauty of the G League. And I always tell young coaches that if you want to become a good coach, you should coach in the G League, because you have to be on your best effort every day, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, to the point where, in the showcase this year with 13 minutes to go and Ivan Rabb's out warming up, and Chris Wallace calls us and goes, Joachim's not playing tonight in Portland. You need to go get him off the court and put him on a plane in an hour. And so, that totally changes everything. So it makes you a lot better as a coach. And, luckily we have a good situation here with the group between Chris Wallace and JB supporting it. And hopefully they feel like the Grizzly or the Hustle were nothing but a positive for the Grizzlies this year as they went through their ups and downs.